Okay, students. Good evening. Can anyone confirm whether I'm audible? How about the audio? How about the audio? Use the YouTube live chat. So today this session is not going to be as a usual class. So you'll be having audible. Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay, right. Okay. So how you are doing these days now? It's the 7th week ongoing and it's the Wednesday today. So which means exactly 6 weeks and 6.5, ne? 6.5 weeks for the exam here onwards, from this point onwards. So for the 25 students, now it's a busy time, a hectic time in your schedule, right? Because this is actually the most the valuable time period of your life is going, right? These 6 weeks coming up, 6.5, let's say, these 6.5 weeks coming up is going to decide your whole life, basically, right? So based on the result that you get, everything will be changed, huh? That you know, because now with the result, the degree you can choose will be different, and when the degree is different, so obviously the job that you are going to get after the degree is going to be different, right? So when the job is different, the salary scales will be different. So when the salary scales are different, your living standards and all the things will be different, right? Okay. So how are you doing? All good? Students? How are you doing? I'm going to jump into the discussion without any further chat. Just tell me. How we are doing? All good there? Huh? So how do you feel like, I mean, about this period of your life? Challenging? Or you feel what? You feel fatigued? You feel uncomfortable? Or how is it? Yes. Now, always putting a higher effort means that will be exactly reflected with your result. Huh? That's the thing. That's the thing. Your result will reflect uh, your effort that you have put, right? So even though it's a S pass, C pass, so B, A, whatever the pass it is, right? So with the pass you obtain, we know what the result, the amount of effort that you have put, right? That's a clear idea we can have. So sorry, my YouTube's name. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Right. All right. So without any further chat, we'll move on to the session. Right. We'll start. Huh? Yeah, it seems now most of you have joined. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Good. So since most of you have joined, I'll start. I'll start. Okay. Now, first thing is the purpose of this meeting we are having today. Purpose of this session we are having today. Purpose is now in each year we see when we looking at the answers students are writing, the papers students are writing, and the way you are writing answers, we are seeing gaps, right? We are seeing gaps in your answers and what is expected from you, right? So clear gaps are there. Since there are clear gaps, I wanted you to share my thoughts and my knowledge on the tips and tricks and the special techniques, strategies we use when writing answers especially for the MCQs, structured essay questions and essay questions. Because in our paper, we have 3 types of questions basically, right? There are 3 different types. Since there are 3 different types, we have to approach the questions in 3 different ways, right? So that is the thing. The way that you are taking a MCQ is totally different from the way that you are taking an essay, right? So that is totally different from the way that you are taking a structured essay. So therefore, to fill this gap and to explain what is exactly expected from you when papers are marked, right? So I want to share my knowledge and the experience from what I have seen in the previous years, right? So each year we see these gaps, right? So therefore, now this year I thought of conducting this session as a special academic session to all of you to get an idea, right? So this is especially for the students who are sitting for the A levels this year, 25 batch, right? And if 26 or 27 students are also watching, that is totally fine, because you can also gain something out of this, the way that you should write answers for A level papers, A level physics. I'm exclusively focusing on my subject, right? Okay, right? Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, it seems all good, ne? Okay, yes. Okay. Okay, you can see my screen clearly, right? You can see the screen, right? All right. So that's the thing. Now, in this year paper class also, now in my paper class, I mean 25 batch paper class also. So when you write answers, we see like gaps in the answers, right? Now I think this is a high time to fine tune your skills, because now it's only 7 weeks ahead of the exam. You are just 7 weeks ahead. 7 weeks means there is yes, it's clear. Okay, that means it's quite enough time to adjust the things. If you have used to something, that's quite enough time to adjust the things, right? So that's why we are conducting this session as an exclusive session. And now from the students of the paper class, they actually requested this kind of a session in the last month also, and I couldn't find any time to conduct the session. And now today somehow we have found a time to conduct the session, right? So I think the most of you from the paper class also is joined here, right? So without further discussion, let's start. So please do a session for 27 batch study plans, as we are free these days. Yeah, about a study plan. Yeah, now I have got few requests on the last seminar also. Yeah, I'll do it with another seminar. If I didn't find any free time to conduct an exclusive session, what I can do is with a free session that I'm doing, with a free session or free seminar, right? We will find a time to do it. Let's see. Yeah, I'll give my best try. Right? Okay. Yeah, let's start. So first, I have categorized the questions as we have to answer, like MCQs, structured essays, and essays, right? So one by one, you are going to see the tips and tricks you need to do, and you are expected to do as students when you are writing answers for these types of questions, each type of question, right? So basically, you know what MCQs are, right? MCQs means multiple choice questions. So in multiple choice questions, we have 5 answers. Even though you have 5 answers, now when it comes to A-level standard, only 2 answers are going to be tie answers, which means if you know even a small logic, a science behind the physics part, theory part behind that particular question, usually in a usual MCQ question, you can remove 2 to 3 answers, right? 2 to 3. Usually it's 3. So minimum 2 to 3 answers. and mostly you will be ending up having a tie between two answers, right? That's the most common scenario, right? That's the most common scenario. That's not a rule, but that's the GCE level standard we have, right? Okay. Now, when you are writing MCQs, so you know in the exam you are getting what? You are getting an answer sheet to cross your answers, right? Now in the screen also you can see the similar answer sheet you are getting, right? You will be getting answer sheet as from 1 to 50, all numbers are put, and the answer boxes in the sense actually they are circles. Answer circles are given as A, B, C, D, E, right? As I have shown here, right? As I have shown here. Let me use a pointer here. You can see my cursor, right? Isn't it? You can, right? So likewise, okay. Look at here. So likewise, now in your answer sheet you are getting, right? Sometimes you might have seen the exact same answer sheet you are getting in the exam by now, right? Especially 25 students, because now in the last exams you are having final exams and the pilot exams. Sometimes from the schools also the same answer sheet is given, and sometimes from the classes also it's given. So you might have seen, right? So there you have 5 circles. You need to either cross or color answers, right? So let's see, starting from the beginning, right? Now this is actually an example sheet that I have shown here that you are getting in the exam. So that is not going to be an underlining thing as you do in MCQs. That is not going to be an underlining thing, just underlining thing. So that is actually crossing answers, right? Okay, first point. See, so it says start from question number 1, right? The reason to say that is, now some students think, listen, some students think the most easiest questions are at the beginning, and the most difficult questions are at the end, right? Some students think that way, that the most easiest questions are the first 10 questions, and some students think that the most difficult questions are the last 10 questions out of 50. No, that is not the case. That is not the case always in our papers. The thing is this. Now, when we have 50 questions for 2 hours, right, 50 MCQs for 2 hours, that doesn't mean now 50 MCQs for 2 hours means that is 120 minutes altogether. No, that doesn't mean now 120 over 50 is 2 point something, right? 120 over 50 is 2 point something, but that doesn't mean you have just 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes for one MCQ. No, that is not the case. That is the first thing you need to understand, right? Because the 2 hours are going to be balanced as an overall. That doesn't mean each question needs 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes to finalize or answer. No, that is not the case, right? So there are some questions with like easier logics, sometimes direct theory parts that you can answer easily in a second or 2 seconds of time, 2 seconds of time sometimes, right? Just direct answers, right? And there are some questions that you need to do some small arguments and answer. So they may be taking like 30 seconds or 1 minute, up to 1 minute, let's say. And there are some questions with calculations. There you have to do some work in and get answers. You have like some questions in that part, in that type. They are like they are taking like 1 to 2 minutes. Such questions are there, and there can be questions with good arguments, good thinking patterns with kind of lengthy workings. They usually take like, can be, right? They might take from like 3 to 5 minutes as well. So therefore, first thing you need to know is there is nothing like one question is for 2 minutes. No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. That will be balanced in an overall, as an overall. Sometimes you are spending just 3 seconds, 4 seconds for one theory question, while spending 5 minutes, 6 minutes for a good calculation, right? Such cases are there, always that happens, right? So therefore, I'm not saying you to start from the 50th question, no, start from somewhere in between, right? My advice is to start from question 1, right? Please start from question 1. You can start from question 1 and do the questions starting from 1 to 50. That is totally fine, right? Is that clear? And when you do questions from 1 to 50, so I know there can be questions which are more familiar to you and sometimes which are not that familiar to you, right? So therefore, my second advice is you don't have to and you don't need to get stuck in a particular question for too long, right? You can't get stuck at a particular question for too long, right? You can't get stuck at a particular question for too long, which means now if you feel like you don't get the question, right? If you feel like you don't get the question, you can't understand the question, what you should do is you can circle that particular question and you have to move on, right? So make sure that you circle. Don't move on without circling. And circle කරන්න නැතුව ඉස්සරහට යන්න එපා. ඔයාලට track එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ track එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ you have to have a track of the questions you did and you didn't do. So therefore, circle the questions and move on. Right? Circle the questions and move on. Right? So if you feel like now you couldn't remember that perspective theory part, particular theory part, don't stuck at the question. Don't get stuck at that particular question. Always you need to move on. Always you need to move on. Right? That's the thing. That's the thing. Circle that particular question and move on from the question. Because as I told you in the first point, there is no such order as the first questions are easy and the last questions are difficult. No such order. So therefore, you will find easier questions here and there, in between, here and there. So therefore, feel free and don't hesitate to skip a question if you don't get the question, right? If you don't get the question, don't spend more than 1 minute in a particular question, right? If you don't get the question, don't spend more than 1 minute in a particular question. Just move on, right? Just move on. But make sure that you circle that particular question when you are moving on, right? Point 3 is use method of rounds, right? Use method of rounds. So I say minimum 3 rounds. What is method of rounds? What is method of rounds? That means this. That means now you will be going through the paper as rounds. You will be going through the paper as rounds, which means now first you are starting from the question. As I told you, you are starting from the question 1, and now you are doing the questions for the first round first, right? In the first round, you are only going to take the questions you can do at once, you are most comfortable with, right? You are most familiar with, right? So which means, as I told you in the second point, so if you don't get a question at once, you have to skip that question. You have to move on from that question to the next one, right? And likewise, you have to complete the first round. You have to complete the first round. Now, after the first round, let's say now you did question 1 and you did question 2 as well, but you couldn't do question 3. So question 3 is circled, and you were able to do question 4. So question 4 is done, and you didn't do question 5. It's circled. So likewise, in the first round, you are going question by question without waiting too long or stucking too long in particular questions, right? And meanwhile, listen, very important. Meanwhile, you have to use a pencil. You have to use a pencil and cross the respective answers for the questions you do in the first round in your marking sheet, right? So make sure you are using a pencil when you are crossing the answers in the first round, right? Make sure you are using a pencil. Very important. Make sure you are using a pencil in the first round when you are crossing the answers in the first round. So likewise, complete your first round, right? Now after the first round, let's say now 1 hour is gone. From 2 hours, 1 hour is gone, and you have gone through all 50 questions, right? That is very important. Now you have gone through all 50 questions. but there are some questions you have skipped, right? That is how it is. There are questions you have skipped, but you have gone through all the questions. Now, the questions you didn't do in the first round are circled now, right? So since they are circled, now as the next thing what you should do is, now you have to come to the beginning again, right? Come to the start of the paper again, and now you have to start the circled question in the second round. You have to start the circled question in the second round, right? Now there will be some set of questions. Now, even though you couldn't do those questions in the first round, right, you can do those questions in the second round, right? So once you went through the paper, now your mind is different and your thinking patterns are different, right? Your focus is different. So therefore, now even though some particular theory part, let's say you couldn't remember in the first round, right, there's a possibility of you can remember it, you could remember it in the second round, right? So definitely that's there. එහෙම 0 වෙන ස්ටුඩන්ට්ස් වල නැහැ. අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ඔයාලට ඒක මතක් වෙනවා. එහෙම තමයි හැටි. That's a nature. That's a nature. Right? We all are human beings. So for all human beings, that's a nature. Right? So you can definitely you can do few of the questions in the second round. I don't say you can do all the circle questions in the second round. No. But you will do some more questions, few of the questions that you have circled in the first round in the second round. Right? So likewise, now go through the circled question again and again and try the circled questions. And if you got an answer for a circled question, again cross that answer in your marking sheet, right? Cross that particular answer in the marking sheet. So likewise, again you have to go through a complete round of 50 questions as the second round, right? Complete round through 50 questions means now you are not going to read the already completed questions now. You are going through the circle questions, but still you are going through a complete round in the paper. වා වටයක් යනවා තව paper එකේ. වා paper එකේ full round එකක් යනවා. හරි? circle questions ටික බල බල round එකක් යනවා. ඒතර ඒ circle question එකකට වා answer එකක් ගත්තට පස්සේ වා ඒ circle කරපු එක අයින් කරලා දාන්න paper එකෙන්. You can cut that off from the paper and you can select that correct answer. You can mark that correct answer in the marking sheet at the same time. At the same time, because I'm emphasizing on that because there are some students who are marking the answers on the marking sheet at the last moment. That is not going to work, and never do it, right? Never do it. The reason is, now in the last moment, that's you are rushing to finalize your answers, and you are not like mentally that stable in the last 5 minutes and 10 minutes. You are rushing to finish it, right? Therefore, even if you miss crossing one answer, now if you are doing it at the last moment, like 1 to 4, 3, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 4, 5 to 5, 6 to 3. So likewise, if you are rushing in the last moment, even if you miss one, right, all the series of answers starting from that missed answer are going to be different, even though you have marked the correct answer in your paper, right? Such cases are there. එන්න එහෙම කරන්න එපා. එහෙම කරන්න එපා. ඒක last moment එකට mark කරන්න තියාගන්න එපා. ඒක it's a stupid thing to keep your answers to mark or take it to the marking sheet at the last moment. That's a stupid decision you can make. That's the worst stupid decision you can make. Right? Don't do it. Never do it. Right? එකක් හරි miss වුණොත් ඊට පස්සේ answers ටික හොයන්න බෑ. හොයන්න බෑ කියන්නේ miss වෙනවා. Sometimes you might have got the correct answers and you have underlined them in your paper, but you haven't marked them properly on the marking sheet, right? So therefore, always simultaneously, if you got the answer simultaneously, cross it with a pencil in your marking sheet, right? Simultaneously cross that answer in your marking sheet, right? That is how it should be. I hope it's clear, right? That is how it should be. Right? Now, when you are moving in the first round also, you have to do it simultaneously. And when you are moving in the second round also, when you are going through in the second round also, you have to do it simultaneously. Right? That is how it should be. හරි ඒකම එක මාක් කරන්න ඕනේ parallelly, simultaneously in the sense parallelly. Right? Okay. And so likewise, you have to complete your second round. Now, once your second round is completed, now let's say from the first round, you were able to complete 30 questions. And now, after the second round, you were able to complete another 10 questions, right? So which means now altogether 40 questions are completed. Altogether 40 questions are completed, right? And now still 10 questions are remaining, right? So if you remain 10 questions, now keep it to the third round and then again go through the circled questions starting from the beginning as the third round. Now you are in the third round. So in the third round, try to do them somehow. Now mostly you will be in last 30 minutes when you are doing the third round. Usually you will be in last 30 minutes when you are doing the third round. So try to do those questions somehow by recording something, even a small theory part in the third round, and try to finalize the answers. And if you couldn't remember anything, as I told you, try to remember even a small argument about the theory parts, right? A small argument from the theory parts, right? Even if you can remember a small argument, right? As I explained before, you can remove few of the answers, maybe 2 or 3 answers. If you can remove few answers, then you can still you can narrow down the answers and you can select an answer with a higher probability if you don't know the answer at all also, right? Because now if you choose an answer without knowing anything from five answers, the probability of getting a correct answer is 20%. Probability is 20%, which means just 0.2%, right? But let's say with a small logic, you can remove 3 answers, right? Now, if you remove 3 answers, only 2 answers are remaining. Then if you select one answer from remaining 2 answers, the probability of getting a correct answer is 50%, which means 0.5, right? So therefore, now finally, if you don't know anything, try to at least remember one theory part or one logic, one argument about that respective question, right? One logic, one argument, and then try to narrow down the answers. And after narrowing down, in the third round, somehow finalize your answers and you have to select one answer. So likewise, go through the remaining questions in the third round. Go through the remaining questions in the third round, right? කොහොම හරි මොනවා හරි ආගියුමන්ට් එකක් මතක් කරගන්න try කරන්න. මොනවාම හරි ආගියුමන්ට් එකක්. Right? Let's say you are stuck in a VT graph, right? So if the motion is in opposite directions, you know the VT graph should be in plus and minus directions, right? So likewise, now if you have given answers, if you have answers which are only vary in a positive or negative one direction, then you can remove those answers, right? So likewise, try to get some argument, a small argument at least, and remove some answers and go in the third round, right? And even though I say it's 3 rounds, right? I say minimum 3 rounds. You can see, I say minimum 3 rounds. Now, after the third round also, if you have few more questions, complete it as a 4th round. That doesn't matter, right? But use minimum 3 rounds. Minimum 3. More than 3, not a prashnak. Minimum 3, right? So since we are having this discussion, this session as a discussion session, if you are getting any questions or if you have different thoughts other than what I'm saying about these points, you can put them to the chat and clarify from my end, right? So I'm also happy to see your thoughts, happy to answer your questions, and I'm happy to see your thoughts, right? Because these are not from any book or somewhere. This is totally from my knowledge and my experience, right? In the past years, right? So use the methods of rounds. That is very important. එහෙම නැත්නම් වෙන case එක තමයි students are coming out from the exam hall saying I couldn't even read last 10 questions කියලා exam hall එකෙන් එළියට එනවා. right? මොකක්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? questions වල stuck වෙලා ඉඳලා අර methods of rounds කියන එක use කරලත් නැහැ. එතකොට වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? Sometimes the 49th question will be an easier question for you. Right? It depends with you. So therefore, sometimes the 48th question, 49th question might be an easier question that you could do. But you are not doing the question because you have stuck in some of the questions in the middle, right? That's the thing, right? No, if you are stuck in a question, don't hesitate to skip that question in the first round. ඒක තමයි මම කිව්වේ. මොකද එක question එක ඔයා දිගටම හිටියොත් ඔයා ඊට පස්සේ අර easy questions තමයි ඔයාට කරන්න බැරි වෙන්නේ, right? You will be running out of time to do the easy questions that you could do But your stuck questions are, anyway, you are stuck because you couldn't do it. The missing a mark from a question, it is difficult to you is totally reasonable than missing a mark from a question. It's doable in your case that you could do. That's worse. That's the thing, huh? So therefore, that is how you should go, right? So minimum in 3 rounds, you are going through all questions 3 rounds. Right? That is how it should be. Right? Is that clear? Is that clear? So what about the first 3 points we discussed? What about the first 3 points we discussed? Is it clear? Any points clear neda? Just tell me if you have anything. Okay, point 4. See, very important again. Use the pencil for first rounds. First rounds not only for the very first round. First rounds in the sense, until your last round, you have to use a pencil. Right? Until your last round, you have to use a pencil. Yes, clear. Okay, good. Until your last round, you have to use a pencil. The reason is, now when you are crossing answers in your marking sheet, right? If you use a pen at first, what happens is, now if you need to change your answer, let's say now when you are doing the second round or third round, your mind changed about one question. That happens, huh? We are humans. අපි perfectly හැම වෙලේම හරිම answer එක first round එකේ සමහර විට වට එන්නේ නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So as humans, that happens. That is totally normal. That is totally normal. Totally normal. First round එකේ යද්දි තිබ්බ answer එකක් ඔයා second round එක කරද්දි click වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නෑ මේක නෙමෙයි අරකට answer එක වෙන එකක් කියලා, right? Now when you are in the second round, sometimes you will feel like, no, I did something wrong in that particular question. I need to change this answer, right? You will change your mind. So therefore, first you have to use a pencil. First you have to use a pencil. Pen එක use කරන්න එපා. ඊට පස්සේ ඔයාලා answers cut කරන්න වෙනවා. cut කරලා පස්සේ එකම answer එකේ answers දෙකක් විතර cut කරොත් it is not going to clear for the marker, right? So then what happens is, if there is something that is not clear enough for the marker, right, that particular question will be disregarded, right? ඔයාලා ඒ marker ට හොයන්න බැරි නම් ඔයා කරලා තියෙන්නේ මොකද්ද කියලා ඒක disregard කරනවා, right? So don't take that risk. Don't take that risk. Have a pencil and an eraser when you are going to the exam, right? Boys උනත් girls උනත් ඔයාලට pencil case එකක් තිබ්බත් නැතත් මොනවා වුණත් කවන්නේ නැහැ. Pencil case ඕනේ නැහැ. Pencil එකකුයි eraser එකකුයි අරයි යන්න. Right? So bring your own pencil and eraser for the exam. Right? Bring your own pencil and eraser for the exam. Right? And in first 2 rounds, now I'm talking with respect to the third round. In first 2 rounds, make sure you are using the pencil. Right? Pencil එකෙන් or at the same time මම ඒ කලිනුත් කියවනේ. So parallelly you are crossing the answers from the pencil in the marking sheet. Right? Using a pencil, very important, using a pencil. Right? Now even if you change some answers in your second round or third round, you can erase them from the answer sheet and cross again using a pencil. Right? So therefore, my advice is, don't use the pen until you finalize your answers. Right? Don't use the pen until you finalize your answers. Right? And 15 minutes before the ending time. Right? 15 minutes. Listen, 15 minutes before the ending time, which means after 1 hour and 45 minutes of time, then most probably you will be in the third round or you have finished the third round. So in last 15 minutes, finalize your answers, right? Finalizing your answers means in last 15 minutes, now you are in this kind of a scenario now. Now all 50 answers are marked using the pencil on your marking sheet. එහෙමනේ අපි කරේ. මොකද දැන් ඔයා first 3 rounds වලම ඔයා answers mark කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Usually, now let's assume for your first round it took 1 hour, and for your second round it took 30 minutes, and for your third round it took 15 minutes. Third round එකේ තවත් questions පොඩ්ඩයි තියෙන්නේ. It took 13 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. So like in around 1 hour and 45 minutes of time, now all the answers for your 50 questions, right? අර කනා ගහනවා කියලා කියන්නේ ඔයාට logic එකක් නැතුව ගහන answer එකක් වුණොත් ඔයා pencil එකෙන් mark කරලා තියන්න to the most probable answer, right, in the third round. most probable answer එක third round එකේ මම කියවන logically mark කරන්න. If you have a science behind marking the answer, scientific method එකක් use කරන්න. Scientific method is a proper argument. Right? Proper argument එකක් use කරලා questions කොහොම හරි answers තුනකට හරි ඔයා finalize කරගත්තොත් වැඩි percentage එකකින් ඔයාලට answer එකක් choose කරන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම කරලා now by the end of the third round, now you have finalized all answers and they are marked on the marking sheet with a pencil for the MCQ now. Right? They are all marked on using a pencil on the marking sheet, and in the final last 15 minutes, now take out your pen and make sure you are using a blue or black color pen. Right? Very important. Anit colors use කරන්න බෑ ඔතේ. Green, pink, orange. ඔය එකේ colors තියෙනවනේ girls ලාට එහෙම. girls ලාගේ තියෙන colors use කරන්න බෑ. Purple. ඒවා use කරන්න එපා. Right? So in your instructions also it's strictly advised to use a black or blue pen. A black or blue pen. හරිනේ? වෙන එක colors use කරන්න එපා. red එක කොහොමවත් use කරන්න බෑ. Right? Using red is only for the marking purpose. That is only for the marker. Right? So therefore using red is highly prohibited. It's highly prohibited. Now finally in the last 8 minutes, now as I told you, all answers are marked on the marking sheet with a pencil now. Now no need to erase the pencil lines. Right? On the pencil lines you can mark the answers using a pen. Right? Pencil එක උඩ pen එකෙන් ලියන්න පුළුවන්. On the pencil lines you can write using the pen. Right? No need to erase and write again. On the lines you wrote before, right? You can cross it again using a pen like this. See? Now let's say now using the pencil you have crossed your answer like this. Using the pencil you have crossed your answer like this. Right? Pen එකෙන් අපි මෙහෙම ගමු. Okay, now this is what you have crossed using the pen, using the pencil like this. And now when you are using the pen, now on this line itself, you can cross using the pen like this. You can cross using the pen like this. Is that clear? Right? So likewise, now using the pen, you can cross these answers on your marking sheet now. You can cross these answers on your marking sheet now using a pen. Right? No need to erase. Erase කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. උඩ අඳින්න පුළුවන්. So erase කරන්නත් ආයි time එකක් ගන්න එපා. Taking another time for erasing is also a waste of time. So don't take another additional time for erasing. Right? Don't take any additional time for erasing. Use pen and mark your answers on pencil lines itself. Right? Then no need to look at the paper again. හොඳේ? paper එක බලන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඔයාගේ answers ටික කොහොමද already දැන් marking sheet එකේ mark කරලා ඉවරයිනේ. Right? So therefore no need to look at the paper again. Right? So just mark all your answers just by looking at the marking sheet. Right? Mark all your answers just by looking at the marking sheet you are referring with the pen. And now if you forget to mark answers using a pen, very important again, if you forgot to mark the answers using a pen, your answers will not be considered. Right? Will not be considered. Your answers will not be considered if you didn't use a pen. Right? In A levels, especially in MCQ paper, pencil lines are not considered. Right? Pencil lines are not considered. The reason is, now if you have used pencil lines, there's a possibility for the marker to erase your answers and mark the correct answer. Right? There's a possibility for marker to erase your answers and mark a correct answer. So therefore, in A levels that is prohibited. So make sure you are marking all the answers using a pen in last 15 minutes. හරිනේ? last 15 minutes වල ඔයා pen එකෙන් අනිවාර්යෙන් mark කරන්න ඕනේ. pencil එකෙන් විතරක් mark කරලා තිබ්බොත් ඒ question එක ඔයාගේ බලන්නේ නැහැ. Right? So I hope it's clear. Right? මුලදී තමයි pencil එක use කරන්නේ. පස්සේ pen එකෙන් අනිවාර්යෙන් mark කරන්න ඕනේ. So for the initial rounds you are using pencil. Finally when you finalize answers, it is a must to mark all answers in a pen, using a pen. right? Next point, method of logical elimination. Method of logical elimination means, now that is what I explained in the fourth one. Fourth එකෙත් මම ඔක explain කරා. Logical elimination කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක් හරි logic එකක් තියාගෙන ඔය eliminate කරන්න පුළුවන් answers තියෙනවා. right? logic එකක් එක්ක අර 10 20 ගණන් කරලා නෙමෙයි 10 20 30 40 කියලා ගණන් කරලා cross කරන answers නෙමෙයි. right? අර S2 පියාගෙන 1 2 3 4 කියලා දාලා cross කරන answers නෙමෙයි. හොඳේ. තේරෙනවනේ? දැන් සමහර කට්ටිය මොකද කරන්නේ? මොකුත් දන්නේ නැත්නම් S2 පියාගෙන you are testing your luck. You are counting like 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 and මොනවා හරි tick took tock ගාලා answers මේව ගන්නවා. right? That is not the logical elimination. right? That is not the logical elimination. That is testing your luck. Logical elimination means try to have a small logic. right? මොනවාම හරි logic එකක් වට මතක් වෙයි. right? Let's say that is from PV graphs in thermal physics. Now about PV graphs, try to recall something about PV graphs that it is going to be useful with your question, right? And with that logic, you have to eliminate some answers. With that logic, logical elimination. With that logic, you have to eliminate some answers, right? මොනා හරි දන්නවනම් පුළුවන් තරම් එක answer එකක් හරි eliminate කරන්න. And especially in some MCQs, listen, especially in some MCQs which are given as labels, some MCQs you might see some answers with wrong dimensions. Such questions are there. With wrong dimensions. Then in such cases, let's say you are asked about a length, but in some answers no dimensions of lengths are given. Right? Now if you simplify the dimensions, they are dimensionally wrong. So likewise, if you can see dimensionally wrong answer, eliminate it. That's a logic. Right? If there is dimensionally wrong, that's a proper logic. So likewise, try to have something. Dimensions check කරන්න පුළුවන් labels now. Right? If your answers are given in labels, check dimensions and eliminate some answers. Right? So if your answers are given in maybe sometimes with a, what do you say, with a different unit to what is asked. Right? Some cases are there, rare cases තියෙනවා එහෙම. Different units to what is asked, so wrong units, different in the sense wrong units to what is asked, you can remove such answers. And if you have a logic about something, try to at least remove one answer, right? So removing one answer means you are increasing your probability of choosing a correct answer, right? Removing even one answer means you are increasing the probability of choosing a correct answer, right? So therefore, try to remove some answers from the given answers with the logic, right? Logical elimination, right? කොහොමද answers 3ක් වගේ remove කරගත්තොත් tie එකක් ඉතුරු වෙනවා answers දෙකක, right? Somehow if you could remove 3 answers, the tie will be only between 2 answers, right? Then if you can't finalize anything about the remaining 2 answers, you can test your luck just by 2 answers. Then you have a percentage, a probability of getting a correct answer with a 0.5 or 50%. එහෙම තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? Use logical elimination. Right? I hope that point is clear. Next. 6. Cross or color most correct answer box with the pen. Right? ඒක තමයි මම කලිනුත් කිව්වේ. Right? That's the same point that I explained in the previous parts also. Using pen is mandatory. Right? Either you have to cross answers or color answers. Right? ඒ දෙකට වඩා වෙන එකව කරන්න එපා. So like this. Look at here. Now sometimes some students are doing different things like this. මෙහෙම ඒවා කරන්න එපා. මෙහෙම කරනවා. මේක එකව කරනවා. Right? මෙහෙම කරනවා. මෙහෙම දානවා. මේ single මෙහෙම දානවා. ඒවා මුකුත් කරන්න බෑ. Right? You have to either cross or color. මේ වගේ වැරදි. All of them are wrong. Right? See? All of them are wrong. See? lines. See, all of them are wrong. See, all of them are wrong. Right? So you are advised, you are instructed to either cross or color. So therefore, what you should do is something like this. What you should do is either you can cross like this. You can cross answers. Right? Reduce can. So you have to use either black or blue. Right? Black or blue use color. You have to cross answers like this. Right? So if you are crossing answers, you have to use crossing for all answers like this. If you are crossing answers, you can cross answers for all the cases, right? And if you are coloring answers, you have to color the respective answer like this, like this. You have to color the respective answer like this. But I'm advising you to cross, color karanna giya velawa yana, right? Coloring takes time. Coloring takes time. Ehema color karath hari. Color karath hari. But coloring takes time. So therefore, my advice is to don't color, cross, right? Either crossing and coloring both are fine, but crossing is easier. You can easily cross answers in a very small time, right? Without spending any time, you can cross answers. So therefore, my recommendation is to, what I recommend you is to cross answers, right? Cross කරන්න පුළුවන්, color කරන්න පුළුවන්, but my recommendation is to cross, right? ටිකක් cross කරලා ටිකක් color කරන්න එපා. හොඳේ? එහෙම ළමයිත් ඉන්නවා. right? සමහර ඒවා cross කරනවා, හිතුනම color කරනවා, හිතුනම cross කරනවා. Now don't do both. Right? Don't do both. Only one. And my recommendation is to cross answers, right? Using pen is mandatory. Right. So those are the things those are the facts, those are the things you should know when you answer a MCQ question, MCQ paper. MCQ paper. Right? Those are the things you should know. Right. So any other thing to know before moving on to rest? Students, any other thing to know about MCQs? Any questions about MCQ tips and tricks before moving on to the next part? Quickly. If there's anything, feel free to ask. If there's anything, feel free to ask. Is there anything you have to know, you have to clarify before moving on to the next part? Tell me. Students, anything to clarify? So if there's anything, tell me. Or if there is clear, just tell me it's clear. If not, just ask it out. ඕන දෙයක් අහන්න පුළුවන්. Right? I don't mind the language. I don't know Tamil. I can understand Sinhala and English. So I don't mind the language. You can use any language and ask if there's anything. Anything? Students? Nothing. So before moving on to the rest, is there anything? So you can ask anything. You can ask anything. I don't judge you based on your questions. Right? This is just a discussion to clarify your things, clarify your doubts. If you are leaving this session with zero doubts, that is all I need. Right? ඕනේ language එකකින් අහන්න කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. All good? Is it all good up to here? Is it all good? Is it all good? No questions. Yes. Is it all good for others as well? Same there. No questions. Okay. Okay. If there's no questions, we can move on. All good. Good. If there's no questions, we can move on. Right. So if you got any question, meanwhile also, you can ask. Let's move on. Okay. Next is about structured essays. Right. So you know what structured essays are. Structured essays means you are given how many structured essays we have in our paper, right? Now, if you are doing 25 A levels and if you don't know the number of structured questions you are getting, right, that's a problem, huh? That's a huge problem. So we have four structured essays questions, right? And each question carries 20 marks, right? 20 marks from 200, 20 from 200. Okay, in structured essays, structured means you are given blanks, you are given spaces, blanks to provide your answers, right? That's how a structured essay question is, right? Question එක තියෙනවා, blanks තියෙනවා. You have to write your answers in the given blanks, right? Okay, structured කියන්නේ මොනවද කියලා දන්නවනේ. බලමු structured tips මොනවද කියලා. Right, let's see, let's move on. First one, start from the most comfortable question. Very important. Listen. Now, since you have four structured essays, right? Since you have four structured essays, just go through the four structured essay questions first. First in the sense, now, first thing is for the second paper, you are getting 10 minutes of additional reading time, right? You are getting 10 minutes of additional reading time. Additional reading time math then. So the total time for the paper is 3 hours and 10 minutes. Total time for the paper is 3 hours and 10 minutes, right? So what you should do is utilize your additional 10 minutes given before starting writing the paper to go through all questions. So especially that is exclusively for essay questions, right? මම essays වලදී ආයෙ explain කරන්නම්, but you can skim through the structured essays as well. මුලින්ම essays ටික තමයි බලන්න ඕනේ. මම essays වලදී ඒක explain කරන්නම්, right? So you have to select for essay questions in the additional reading time. That's the priority. But after selecting for essay questions, you can skim through the structured essays as well, right? Structured essays ටික skim කරලා ඔයා එතකොට දන්නවා මොනවද තියෙන structured essays කියලා. As an example, let's say the first structured essay is from vernier caliper, and the second structured essay is from sonometer, and the third one is from cooling law, Newton's law of cooling, and 4 is from let's say meter bridge. So likewise, then you have some idea about from which parts the structured essay questions are, right? So therefore, my advice is to you to start from the most comfortable question. Start from the most comfortable. Most comfortable කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Most comfortable කියලා කියන්නේ, now sometimes most of you and the majority of you are not familiar with all parts in the similar way, same way, right? We have our preferred parts sometimes and most liked parts sometimes, and not that preferred parts. That is normal. That is normal as humans. අපිට preferred questions තියෙන්න පුළුවන්, not that preferred questions තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. That is normal. That is normal, right? So in that case, what you should do is don't do from 1, 2, 3, 4. එහෙම කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. I mean, there is no rule. If you are equally preferring all four, that is fine. If you start from 1 and you went ahead as 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you have preferred questions and more comfortable questions and uncomfortable questions, you have to start from the most comfortable question, right? Let's say now you are more comfortable with vernier caliper. Start from vernier caliper, right? Start from vernier caliper. And then let's say you are more comfortable with meter bridge, right? Even though it's the fourth question, do the meter bridge next, right? So likewise, complete all four questions with the order of your comfortability, right? Complete your four questions with the order of your comfortability. Comfortability එකත් එක්ක තමයි ඒවා කරන්න ඕනේ, right? Do the most preferred and the most comfortable question first, and second most comfortable question second, then third, and the most difficult or less comfortable question, right? Most less comfortable question at the last, right? So likewise, you should do when it comes to structured essays, right? And don't keep your comfortable questions to the last moment. Very important, no? Very important. Don't keep your most comfortable questions to the last moment, right? That is never going to work. That is never going to work, right? And that is a stupid decision again. That is a stupid decision again, right? Always you have to do the less comfortable questions at last, most comfortable questions at first, right? Because at the last minutes and the last moments, you are rushing, and your focus is different. You are rushing, your thinking patterns are different. So therefore, sometimes even though that's a comfortable question to you with the time limitations and the thoughts in your head, you can't perform at the same way that you are doing that same question on other days, right? එහෙම වෙන්න දෙන්න එපා, right? ඒකයි මේ කියන්නේ. එහෙම වෙන්න දෙන්න එපා. එහෙම වෙන්න දෙන්න බෑ, right? So therefore, you should do the most comfortable questions first, right? Most comfortable one first, and then with the comfortability order. Clear? Second one, write to the point answers. Very important, and this is another mistake most of the students do, right? Listen, to the point answers කියලා කියන්නේ in the structured essays. Now, in the question, you are asked about some particular thing, some certain thing, right? මොකක් හරි certain thing එකක් නේ අහන්නේ. You are asked about a certain thing. So therefore, you have to answer that certain point you are asked to do. The certain point you are asked to do, right? Whatever ලියලා වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ if the question is about, let's say, now you are asked about the advantages of using water over mercury in a particular experiment, right? So directly you have to say the advantage of water. Right? No point of saying like other things, the background about water. Right? Kelim advantage of water. Directly you have to say the advantage of water. Right? No need to mention any backgrounds about water. If reasons are asked, the exact reasons. Right? And when advantages of water is asked, right? Don't write the disadvantages of mercury. You won't be given any marks. That's not the point. That's not the to the point answer. Got it? If you ask about advantages of water, put the point, write advantages of water. Right? If you ask write about disadvantages of mercury, then write disadvantages of mercury. When you ask to write disadvantages of mercury, don't write advantages of using water. Likewise, right? Put the point තමයි answer එක ලියන්න ඕනේ. And no need to mention any other things which is not asked in the question. That is not expected from you, right? අහලා නැති එකකට ඔයා මොකුත් ලියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. And always in the structured paper, the space is given as it is manageable to an average student, right? Average student කෙනෙක්ගේ font size එකත් එක්ක manage වෙන්න තමයි මේ space එක ඔයාලට දෙන්නේ, right? So it will be given as it is manageable to the average font size of a student, right? So don't write too small fonts or too large fonts, right? You have to have an average font size and write to the point answers. Got my point? To the point. අහන එකට විතරක් තමයි ලියන්න ඕනේ. And to the point means you have to include all the logics principles you are using. එහෙම තමයි to the point answer එකක් ලියන්නේ. So in the third one, see, make sure to include all keywords. Right? So that's actually a part of the to the point answer. That is actually a part of the to the point answer. When you are writing a to the point answer, if you have to use a keyword, you have to use those keywords, right? You are given marks for the keywords you are using. And if you need to mention about a law or a principle, mention that particular law and principle properly, right? That's a keyword, mention the keyword. Now, as an example, let's say you are writing law of cooling. A question on law of cooling, right? So as a keyword, now when you write about law of cooling as keywords, you have to say about emissivity, right? As keywords, let's say you have to say emissivity and area open to surroundings, surface emissivity, area open to surroundings, and room temperature of object. So likewise, there are keywords to be used, right? Now, if the keyword is perpendicular area, that is not going to work if you are writing area, right? ඒක to the point නෙමෙයි, and that is not the keywords, right? area කියලා ඔයා ලියලා නම් වැඩක් නැහැ. ඔයා ඒක use කරන්න ඕනේ perpendicular area කියලා නම්. And let's say now you are writing a Bernoulli question, right? So as keywords you have to write incompressible, non-viscous, steady, stream. Those are keywords. Now if you don't mention those keywords, which means you are losing marks, right? So in my classes I'm always saying to use keywords when you are writing answers, right? Keywords නැත්තම් ලියන්න බෑ, right? So therefore that is the other thing, that is the next thing. You have to use keywords. You have to use keywords, right? Keywords in the sense, those are the words that must include, must be there, must include. Words are the keywords, right? Is that clear? Next, try to manage within provided space. Again, a very important thing, very important. Try to manage within the provided space, right? Now, when you are writing a structured essay question, right? If you are running out of space, if you are running out of space, right? Running out of space කියලා කියන්නේ not just a few more space. Now, if you are running 2-3 lines out of space, most probably there's a possibility of you are doing something wrong. Because the reason is, as I explained before, the space is given as it is enough to average student, right? ඒතර ආට space එක ගොඩක් මදි නම් හරි ගොඩක් වැඩි නම් හරි both ways, either way. Now if you are running more out of space, or if you are remaining more space, if you got more remaining space, right? Either way, there's a possibility of you are doing something wrong, right? Because the space is given as it is enough to an average student, right? As it is enough to an average student. එහෙම තමයි space එක ඔයාලට දෙන්නේ, right? So therefore manage space. You have to manage space, right? And now if you couldn't manage space, don't use separate sheets. If you couldn't manage space, try to write to answer in some other blank space given with a proper numbering, right? Additional sheets වලට යන්න එපා. And don't write vertical answers. ඒ කියන්නේ සමහර කට්ටිය space මදි වුණාම මෙහෙම කරනවා. මේ බලන්න. සමහර කට්ටිය මොකද කරන්නේ, space එක මදි වෙච්ච ගමන් answers ලියනවා මෙහෙම vertically මෙහෙම ලියාගෙන යනවා. මෙහෙම මේ directions වල ලියනවා. මෙහෙම answers ලියන්නත් එපා. paper එකේ මෙහෙම ලියනවා answers vertically upwards මෙහෙම ලියනවා. එහෙම ලියන්නත් එපා. Right? Horizontal අපේ usual typical විදියට answers ලියන්න. Right? Horizontally ලියන්නත් එපා. Right? Typical ලියන විදියට answers ලියන්න. Got it? And manage the space. Right? What a space එක තේරෙනවනේ answer කියලා. Now you can see the given space before you write the answer. Right? So with that, manage your space. You know what you are going to write. So that is in your head, right? That is in your head, that what you are going to write. So therefore manage your space. You have to manage the space, right? So in any case, if you run out of space, right, try to get an additional line below the given space and you can write it, right? Otherwise don't use additional sheets. Don't use additional papers, additional sheets, right? Manage the provided space. Next thing is, try to finish not more than 15 minutes. Hari මේ තියෙන time management එක ගැන. This point is about the time management. So you know, usually this is how times are allocated, right? 25 students must know now, right? So in my paper class also, from the first day onwards, I have been telling you these things, right? You have to manage time, and usual time allocation for a structured essay question is 15 minutes, right? Usual time allocation for a structured essay question is 15 minutes. 15 minutes, right? So if you are running out of 15 minutes and if you are stuck, listen now, listen, if you are stuck and if you are running out of 15 minutes, right, you better skip that structured essay question and go to the next question, right? You better go to the next question if you are running out of 15 minutes, right? Stuck වෙලා ඉන්න එපා. As MCQs, මම MCQs වලත් ඔක් කියවනේ. Don't stuck at the questions, right? And since you need to have an idea about times, you should bring your own watch to the exam. Now, invigilator says the time once in a while, right? Once in a while, invigilator reminds you about the time. But don't wait until the invigilator says you the time. Don't wait until the invigilator says you the time, right? Bring your own watch to the exam. And you can't take smartwatches. Just smartwatch, right? You can't take any smartwatches to the exam hall, right? It should be a normal watch, a classic watch. Smartwatches ගෙනියන්න බෑ. Classic watch එකක් අරන් යන්න. Digital එකක් වුණාට කමක් නැහැ. It shouldn't be smart, right? It shouldn't be smart. Can be a digital watch or an analog watch, right? Should not be smart. You got my point? So have a time, have an idea about time with your own watch, right? Bring your own watch to the exam. And now my point here is, if you are running out of 15 minutes in a particular question, and if you are stuck, if you are not stuck, if you need to spend like 16-17 minutes, that is fine, because anyway you are writing the answer for that part. But if you are stuck වෙලා නම් තමයි මේක matter වෙන්නේ. If you are stuck and if you feel like you are consuming more than 15 minutes, right? Don't stuck at that question, at that particular question for more than 15 minutes. Feel free to move on, right? එහෙම වුණොත් ඒ question එක අයින් කරලා ඔයා next structured essay එකට යන්න, right? So you can circle the question that you couldn't answer during 15 minutes and go to next structured question, right? If you are running out of 15 minutes, right? Is that clear? 20 minutes වගේ නම් කොහොමද spend කරන්න එපා එක structured question එකේ, right? Don't spend like 20 minutes in a structured question, maximum 15, right? And usually if your knowledge is thorough, right? If your knowledge is thorough, a structured essay question is made in such a way that you can finish the structured essay question in 7 to 10 minutes, right? Based on your knowledge. If you have a thorough knowledge about that particular area, right? The structured essay questions are given in such a way that you could complete the question during 7 to 10 minutes. So that's why I'm saying don't take more than 15 minutes with an additional buffer, right? I'm saying more than 15. Don't take more than 15 with that additional buffer time, right? Is that clear? Next, right? Next is about essays. Okay, next is about essays. So likewise, complete all 4 structured essays. Complete all 4 structured essays in a single round. And if you have any parts that you couldn't answer, again feel free to circle those parts with a pencil. With a pencil, feel free to circle those parts if you couldn't answer a particular part. If you couldn't answer a particular part, feel free to circle them and move on. මම අර MCQ එකේ කිව්ව ටික් එකම තමයි, කිව්ව ට්‍රිප් එකම තමයි, right? Circle එකක් දාගෙන යන්න. Circles නැතුව යන්න එපා, because you have to have a track. And don't use pencils when writing answers. Don't use pencils when writing answers for structured essays, right? It's a must to use the pen. It's a must to use the pen. Don't use pencils when writing answers. It's a must to use the pen, right? And when you circle something, that is fine. You can use a pencil, right? For circling purpose, use a pencil. Got it? For the circling purpose. For the circling purpose, use a pencil. Correct? Okay. Now, structured essays are also done. So before moving on to essay parts, any questions? Ask me if you have anything before moving on to this structured. Sorry, before moving on to essays. Any questions? Anything to clarify? ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තමයි questions තියෙන්නේ, right? Questions are with you, doubts are with you, right? Doubts තියෙන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මොනවා හරි වෙන දෙයක් මතක් වෙනවා නම් ඒක අහලා clarify කරගන්න. Anything, students? You can ask anything, right? ඕන දෙයක් අහන්න පුළුවන්. මම කියවනේ. ඕන දෙයක් අහන්න. Ask anything that you have. Ask anything, ask anything. Any doubts you have? Any questions? Anything to clarify? Appeal smile, all clear. ඔයාගේ වෙන ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකක් මොනවා හරි තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එක හරිද වැරදිද කියලා එහෙම අහන්න පුළුවන්. right? ඒ කියන්නේ now if you have practiced something different to what I explained here, right? You can ask about that thing, you can question about that thing from me and clarify whether it's okay or not, right? Especially the ones who are sitting for the exam in 7 weeks, right? Especially the ones who are sitting for the exam in 7 weeks. 7 weeks කියන්නේ 49 days, just 49 days, right? දැන් හරියටම තියෙන්නේ 49 or 50 days ah. Just 7 weeks. Okay, shall I move on? Shall I move on, students? Shall I move on? Okay. Right. Next is about essays. About essays. Right. So you know what essay questions are, right? You know what essay questions are. Essay questions means how many essay questions you have? How many essay questions we have in our paper? That is 8 essay questions altogether, right? That is 8 essay questions altogether. 8 essay questions, and they goes as 5, 6, 7, 8, right? This is how your essay questions go. See, starting with question 5, it goes as 5, 6, 7, 8. Because first 4 questions are the structured essay questions, right? And then 9. In 9, you have 2 parts as 9A and 9B. 2 parts as 9A and 9B like this. And then 10. Then 10. In 10 also, you have 2 parts as 10A and 10B. Right? So if I quickly remind the rules, when you answer here, rules are, what are the rules? Rules are, you have to write answers for any 4 questions. Any 4. Any 4. Any 4. You have to write answers for any 4 questions. Any 4 කියලා කියන්නේ. It doesn't matter whether you are writing 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't matter whether you are writing 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So if you are comfortable with 5, 6, 7, 8, just write 5, 6, 7, 8. Any 4. Any 4. So if you need to do 5, 6, 7 and 9B, your 4 are completed. And if you need to write 7, 8, 9A, 10A, your 4 questions are completed. Right? So about AB questions, about AB questions, the thing is, you can choose either one from A and B. You can choose either one. You can choose either one from A and B. Right? Can 9A එකත් ඔයාලට ලියලා 9B එකත් ඔයාලට ලියන්න බෑ. Got my point? You can't write both. You can't write both 9A and 9B. There is only 9A or 9B. Right? From AB questions, only A and B. Right? It should be either A or B. It should be either A or B. Either A or B only. Yeah? Either A or B. It should be either A or B. Right? Very important. It should be either A or B. If you are taking questions from 9 and 10. Right? Either A or B. That's the only rule you have. Say you are taking 5, 7, 8 and 9A. 9A, your 4 questions are done. Right? And you are taking, let's say, 5, 6, 9B, 10A, your 4 questions are completed. So likewise, you have to choose any 4 essay questions. Any 4 essay questions. Right? Samara katte hitang inna, some students think that you need to you need to write or choose between either A or B. No, nothing like that. එහෙම එකක් නෑ හොඳේ. Some students think that definitely you need to choose either A or B. No, එහෙම එකක් නෑ. Now, if you finish writing 5, 6, 7 and 8, which means you are done. Which means you are done. Your 4 questions are completed. You are done. Right? So that is like this. That is like this. Any 4. Any 4 කියලා කියන්නේ any 4. Right? I told you clearly that it is any 4. Any 4 questions. Any 4. Right? So that is about choosing. That is about choosing questions. And about choosing essays. Now the other thing is, as I told you, you are getting additional 10 minutes of reading time before starting writing. Right? For the part 2, for the essay paper, you are getting additional 20 minutes, additional 10 minutes. You are getting additional 10 minutes. You are getting additional 10 minutes. Additional 10 minutes. Additional 10. 10 minutes reading time. Additional 10 minutes reading time. Additional 10 minutes reading time. Right? Listen, you have to utilize these 10 minutes to choose 4 essay questions wisely. Choose 4 essay questions wisely. Choosing wisely. Choosing wisely means go through all 8 essay questions and select the questions that you are most comfortable to write. Right? Go through all 8 essay questions and select 4 questions you are most comfortable to write. You are most comfortable to write. Comfortable when doing. Right? So with that, choose 4 essay questions. Right? Choose 4 essay questions during additional 10 minutes. So after choosing your essay questions, as I told you, skim through the structured essay parts as well. Right? Structured essays ටිකත් ඊට පස්සේ බලන්න. අර ටික බලුවට පස්සේ. Right? එහෙම තමයි කරන්න ඕන. Right? You have to select 4 essay questions, choose 4 essay questions during the 10 minutes you are getting. Right? That is what the 10 minutes for. What 10 minutes දෙන්නේ ඒ වැඩේට තමයි යෝදේ. That is what that 10 minutes for. නිකන් නෙමෙයි 10 minutes දෙන්නේ. You are giving that 10 minutes to select. Right? You are getting that 10 minutes to select. Got it? You are getting that 10 minutes to select questions, choose questions. So likewise, first choose 4 questions to write. Alright? Now, these are the tips when you are writing. Okay. See, first one. Now, as I told before, again, you have to start from the most comfortable question. You have to start from the most Now, from the selected 4 essay questions, start writing the most comfortable essay question first. Right? You don't need to follow any order of questions. You don't need to follow any order. එහෙම order එකක් follow කරන්න නැහැ. Right? Let's say your most comfortable question is 10B. Start writing from 10B. Right? if your most comfortable question is 10B, so start writing from 10B, right? So let's say your second most comfortable question is 6, so then 6. And let's say your third most comfortable question is 5, then 5. And say your most least comfortable question is 9, let's say 9A, then 9A. So likewise, you have to follow the order with your comfortability. You have to follow this order with your comfortability, right? This one first, then this, then the fifth one, and then 9A. So likewise, you have to follow this order with the comfortability, right? So as I explained before, don't keep your comfortable questions to the last questions, right? Don't keep your comfortable questions to the last questions. Always you should write comfortable questions first. Always you should write the comfortable questions first, right? This is the most comfortable one, 10B. Then your second most comfortable one, third most comfortable one, and least most comfortable one. That is how you should move. That is how you should do. Got it? Otherwise, the disadvantage is this, right? Disadvantage is this. Now, usually, if there is a not preferred or not less comfortable question, which means, right, it is more probable to spend more time, right? If you are not familiar, not comfortable with that question, it is more probable to spend more time. So therefore, now if you take those questions initially as first questions, you will spend more time in the first questions, and you are going to run out of time for the last questions that you are most comfortable with. හරි? ඒක තමයි වෙන්නේ ඔය uncomfortable questions වලින් පටන් ගත්තොත්. Because usually you spend more time with the less comfortable questions. So therefore, you will run out of time for the most comfortable questions. That is a huge disadvantage. That is a huge disadvantage. So therefore, don't do it. Don't do that. Never do that. හරිනේ? හොඳටම පුළුවන් question එක ඔයා මුලින්ම ලියන්න ඕනේ. ඔයාට හොඳටම පුළුවන් question එක ඔයා මුලින්ම ලියන්න ඕනේ. මේක last moment එකට තියාගෙන හරියන්නේ නැහැ. හරිනේ? හොඳටම පුළුවන් question එක මුලින්ම ලියන්න ඕනේ. Start from the most comfortable question. And there is no order. No order. Keep that in mind. කිසිම order එකක් නැහැ. කිසිම order එකක් නැහැ. Last comfortable, least comfortable එක අන්තිමට ලියන්න. There's no any order. Clear නේ? Let's move on. Next. Okay, next point is read whole question before answering. Read whole question before answering. Right? Now, when it comes to our questions, basically we have two different types of questions. Right? The normal questions and the passage questions. Right? Passage කියලා කියන්නේ, in passage questions you are giving a much lengthier passage. Right? In passage questions you are given a lengthier passage. Right? Now in model papers and past papers you can see these types of questions. You are getting a lengthier passage, right? So in passage questions, don't go through the passage from the beginning to the end, right? In passage type questions, don't go through. In passage, don't go through. In passage type questions, don't go through the question from beginning to the end, right? In passage questions, you have to skim through, right? Skim you are just looking at the question from the surface, skimming through, right? And you can go through the passage with the questions, because if there is a passage question for like first three parts, right? First three parts, you have to go through the passage to answer. You have to go through the passage to answer. So therefore, initially you don't need to go through the whole passage. Initially you don't need to go through the whole passage, right? So while you are reading the questions, you are going through the passage and you have to pick answers and write at once, right? You have to pick answers and write at once. Got it? For the passage questions. But if there is an essay question, read the whole question before answering, right? Read the whole question in the sense the question parts. Passage question එකත් question parts read කරාට කමක් නැහැ. Passage එක read කරන්න යන්න එපා. Right? Question parts read කරාට කමක් නැහැ. Passage එක read කරන්න යන්න එපා. Got it? So read the whole question in other types of questions before answering. Because sometimes if you could answer first 2 questions but not the remaining six questions, not first 2 parts but not the remaining 6 parts. Now in that kind of a case, choosing that question is something that you have to think twice, because if you can answer only 2 parts, even though you feel like comfortable, if you could answer only 2 parts, choosing that particular question is questionable, right? With a doubt, right? Give me 1 minute. 1 minute. Right. Okay. So that is what I meant by reading the whole question. That is what I meant by reading the whole question. What the point? What my point? That is what I meant by reading the whole question. Right? I hope the point is clear. Right? Going through the question means going through question parts. Going through all question parts before reading, because now if the question parts are not comfortable with you, right, that is not the question that you should choose, right? පාට අර 10 minutes වල ස්කිම් කර 10 minutes වල go through කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක තමයි best way. හොඳයි, එහෙම තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. Now when you going through the whole question, try to utilize that 10 minutes, additional 10 minutes given as a reading time. If that 10 minutes was not enough, that 10 minutes was not enough, then while you are writing, before you are writing the question also, you can go through the question, right? And I'm advising you, my advice is, my recommendation is to go through the question in that, it means during the 10 minutes you are given as the additional reading time, right? Additional reading time එකේ කරන එක තමයි bestම way එක. Clear නේ? 3. Very important again, mention all logics, laws used properly. Mention all logics and laws used properly. So especially when it comes to essay questions, right? When you are using a logic, or if you are using a law, if you are using a principle, you have to mention those things. Now let's say you are applying law of conservation of energy. So you have to mention that as by using law of conservation of energy, right? So let's say you are applying F equals ma in a particular essay question. So you have to write using F equals ma for 3 kilograms. Or if ABC objects are given, you have to mention it as using F equals ma for object A, for A. And since F equals ma is a vector equation, you have to mention the direction, right? If you are using vector equations, it's a must to mention the direction, right? Logics, laws, and principles means those are the things. Say you are using Snell's law, so mention using Snell's law for first refraction. Likewise, right? Using law of conservation of energy, using law of conservation of linear momentum, using law of conservation of angular momentum, right? Using torque equals I alpha, right? Using Stefan's law, using Wien's law, using Newton's law of cooling, right? So likewise, you have to mention the laws, logics you are using, right? And if there is a vector equation, mentioning direction is also mandatory. Mentioning direction is also mandatory, right? නිකන් F equals ma කියලා ලියලා වැඩක් නැහැ. F equals ma with the direction, with the object. Object කියන්නේ the object you are using F equals ma, right? For any vector equation, that is also valid. That is also valid for any vector equation. Mentioning all logics. Mentioning all logics. Right? Is it clear? Next. Next point is be clean and clear. Be clean and clear. Be clean and clear means now don't cut off your answers in different ways, right? In different ways. Now let's say you went wrong somewhere. If you need to cut something off, don't cut it off like this. Don't cut it off like this, right? Or don't cut it off like this. Don't cut it off like this. Or don't cut it off like this. Don't cut it off like this. Like this. No, no, right? If you are cutting something off, if you have gone wrong somewhere, this is valid for any part of the paper, MCQ or structured essay or say, this is valid for any part. If you have gone wrong, cut this off with a single line like this. Cut this off with a single line to this side or to that side. Mehemari, mehemari. Cut it off with a single line. That is enough. Cut it off with a single line, right? So likewise, you have to be clean. You have to be clean, and it should be always clear for the marker, right? Cut karana, you can cut that off, and then you can cut that off, and then start your answer from a new space, from a fresh space. You can start the answer from a fresh space, right? Araka cut kara fresh space ekin padan gatta, right? Cut it off and start from a fresh space, right? And if you have gone wrong in a whole sheet, right, cut that whole sheet and start with a new page, new side. You will be given any number of pages, right? Sheets, you can get any number of sheets with your requirement. Or sheets ඕන තරම් request කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? So if you need additional sheets, you can make some noise by knocking to the desk, right? Knock to the desk like this and make some noise and ask the invigilator about additional papers. You will get additional papers, right? So therefore, no need to save papers. No need to save papers, huh? Right? No need to save papers for the Department of Examinations. No need to save papers, right? So other than saving papers, there are some other things we should save, right? But that is not the papers in the A-level exam. That is not the papers in the A-level exam. So therefore, don't think of saving papers. Don't think of saving papers, right? Papers save කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. Papers save කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. එහෙම වැඩක් නැහැ. Papers save කරන්න නැහැ. Right? So what we should do is, you have to start the new questions from a new page. එහෙම තමයි instruct කරන්නේ. You have to start new question from a new page, right? And even if you have gone wrong, cut it off and start the question in a new page. That doesn't matter. But make sure your numbering is proper. Make sure your numbering is proper. Correct? හරියට number කරලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. Right? And clearly use space and clearly organize your answers. Clearly organize your answers as it is clear to the marker. Right? ඔයාට clear වෙලා වැඩක් නැහැ. Your answer should be clear to the marker. Right? Next, follow proper numbering. Follow proper numbering. Right? That's the point I explained before. Proper numbering in the sense, now in the answers also, put your numbers accordingly and properly. Put your numbers accordingly and properly in the answers and on your pages also, because for the essay questions you are using additional papers, right? For the essay questions you are using additional papers. So therefore, make sure you are numbering all pages in the essay questions properly, right? Antimata number karanna tiyaganna epa. Don't keep numbering to the last moment, then your papers will be jumbled up and you can't number the papers. You couldn't number the papers freely, the sheets freely, when you are rushing in the last 5-10 minutes, right? Because you have other things to do, like tying up papers and finalizing answers, right? And mentioning the question numbers, and there are things. So therefore, you have to put your numbers parallelly and simultaneously when you are writing answers. Got it? මේ විදිහට number කරගෙන යන්න. paper එකෙත් numbers දාගෙන, like question 6 part A 1 2, part B 1 2 3, part C. So likewise numbering should be there. And on the sheets you are given, right? On the sheets you are given, you can see two boxes at the top. You can see two boxes at the top as page number, right? So you can put the page number accordingly on those two boxes. That is about page number, and inside the page you have to put the question number. So likewise, follow a proper numbering. Tentangula numbers දාන්න එපා. Follow a proper numbering, right? And then try to finish in not more than 30 minutes, right? That is because the usual time you get for an essay question is 30 minutes. Usual time, usual time you get for an essay question is 30 minutes. 30 minutes, right? So therefore, don't take more than 30 minutes if you are stuck in a question, right? Always I'm saying if you are stuck, if you are stuck in a question, don't take more than 30 minutes. Go to the next question, right? Without staying more than 30 minutes, go to the next question. Correct? 30 minutes in a question, right? Start from the beginning and answer. And if you can answer, listen, very important. If you can answer the remaining parts also, if you spend like 35 minutes, 40 minutes also, that is fine if you can finish the question, right? වාට ලියන්න පුළුවන් question එකක් නම් වා 35 minutes 40 minutes වගේ වෙනකන් ගියත් කමක් නැහැ. වාඩේ question එක finish කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් maximum 40. Maximum 40. If you can finish all the parts, if you can finish all the parts, take up to maximum 40. But if you are stuck in a particular part, circle that part and move on. Circle that part and move on. Don't get stuck more than 30 minutes in a particular question. Don't get stuck more than 30 minutes in a particular question, right? Go to next essay, right? And make sure you are circling the missing parts, because now again, if you got some free time after finishing all questions, you can come back to the circled questions in structured essay and essay and try to write something again, right? So therefore, here keep this time in mind as a limit 30, right? As the limit 30. For structured essays 15 minutes, for essays 30 minutes, right? 15-30 කියන එක ඔයාගේ mind එකේ තියාගන්න. You can keep that numbers in mind. You can keep those numbers in mind, right? You can keep those numbers in mind. But I'm repeating again. If you can finish writing answers for a particular question, but still if you need to take 35 minutes, you can take 35 minutes and answer. That is fine. But if not, don't take more than 30 minutes. If not, don't take more than 30 minutes. Right? That's there. That's there. Right? Okay. Okay. So that's it. That is about the essay techniques, essay tips and tricks you need to use. Right? All right then. So with that, we have come to the end of the discussion. Right? End of the discussion means those are the parts that I was planning to discuss with you all. Those are the things I was planning to discuss with you all. And now I have finished the things that I plan to discuss. Right? I have finished the things I have planned to discuss. Now it's time for your questions. It's time for your questions, students. Any questions? Any doubts to clarify? Anything? Anything? Tell me. Sir, what's the marks for essay questions? 30 marks out of 200. 30 marks out of 200. 30 out of 200. Part 2, all part 2 questions are going to be divided by 4, because part 2 is given from 200 marks. For structured essay question 20 marks, for essay questions 30 marks. Right? You are writing 4 structured essay questions, 80 marks there, and 4 essay questions, 120 marks there. Altogether there is 200, and that 200 is taken to 50, and it is added with the 50 marks of MCQ paper. Yeah. What else? What else? Yeah, likewise ask questions. I'm always happy to listen to your questions. What else? If you have no questions, say it's clear. And personally, yeah, because question is something you get personal. Personally, if you don't have any questions, say it's clear. But if not, if you got questions, feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to answer. What else, students? So what do you think about this session? How was it? Yeah, for the study plan, I'll use a separate time, right? Yeah, for the study plans, I'll use a separate time, since this discussion is exclusively for this purpose, right? And the targeted batch is 25, no? Right. Okay, now if there's no questions, I hope you got something out from the discussion we had today, the session we had today, right? And if there are any questions, here I have mentioned all my contacts, right? Telegram channels, WhatsApp channels, and my WhatsApp number for inquiries, and my website for inquiries, right? So everything is mentioned. Everything is mentioned. So you can always reach me out if you need something, right? And if you need to know about these kind of free sessions or seminars and other things, or about my classes, ongoing classes, you can stay connected to either Telegram or WhatsApp channel, and get all updates freely through them. And if there are free sessions, you can join the free sessions through the updates from the channels, so you can stay connected with the channels, right? Okay. And now when you put things in the live chat, once I finish the meeting, once I end the meeting, the live chat is going to disappear. So therefore, if you got something out of the session, if you understood, if you got something out of the session, and if the session was helpful for your journey of the exam, helpful for the question writing, and if you got something, if you learned something new that you didn't know before, feel free to leave a comment in this video on YouTube when I end this video, when I end this live video, live session, right? May live eකට chat එකට දැම්මට ඒක disappear වෙනවා, right? So therefore, if you learn something new, if it was effective, and if there are any positives or negatives, feel free to put them to the chat, because then I can, feel free to put them to the YouTube comments section, because then I can see your comments, and if there are something to improve from my side, I can improve those things when I'm conducting the academic session for the 26 batch next year, right? Because I need to improve the quality of this session by the next year if there are things to be improved, right? And this is actually the first session I conducted as an academic session in this year, right? And for the classes, I have told you these things in the classes, but I haven't conducted the session as an academic session. But this time I thought of conducting as an academic session to you, for all of you, to get something out and to give something out, right? So that was the purpose behind doing this as an open session, right? Open session, right? Class ආවත් නැතත් එතකොට session එක බලන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්නම් class එකේ කට්ටියට මේක කොහොමත් මම කියනවනේ, right? So that's a small request. You can leave a comment, leave a comment tab දැම්ම නම් that will be visible for all of the others as well, whether it was good or not, right? Whether it's positive comment or negative comment, negative feedback or positive feedback, that doesn't matter, right? Always, if you learn something new, you can leave your thoughts, right? Any other things? Any other things? Any other things? Students, no? What are the questions you have now? Feeling hungry? Is that all good? Right. Then now, since all of you are having the exam in 7 weeks now, right? In less than 7 weeks, right? I'm not going to take much time now. I think we have taken around, what's the time now? We have taken around around 2 hours now. Yeah, now we have taken around 1 hour 45 minutes, around 2 hours of time for the session now, and I'm not going to take much more time, because now these days your time is more valuable. Even a minute is more valuable in your case for 25 students. So therefore, I'm going to wind this up. If you have any other questions, any further clarifications needed, you can reach me out through this WhatsApp number. Right? All right then. So good luck all. Good luck all. And put your fullest effort in the exam and write the exam with your fullest effort, with the fullest dedication. Work hard with the fullest dedication. Put your fullest effort when you work these days, and work hard, because these remaining 6-7 weeks are going to decide your whole life, and your final result will be a reflection of the amount of work, amount of effort you put these days, right? So therefore, with that, I'm going to wind up, right? So good luck all again, and feel free to contact me for anything if you need any assistance from my side. All right then. Goodbye and good night. Okay, see you all in another class. All right, goodbye, good night. Okay, I'm ending the meeting. Goodbye, students. I'm ending the meeting.